Jackanory was a long-running BBC children's television series that was designed to stimulate an interest in reading. The show was first transmitted on December 13, 1965, the first story being the fairy tale Capo Rushes read by Lee Montague. Jackanory continued to be broadcast until 1996, clocking up around 3,500 episodes in its 30-year run. The final story, The House at Pooh Corner by A. Milne, was read by Alan Bennett and broadcast on March 24, 1996. The show was briefly revived on November 27, 2006 for 2 one-off stories. The show's format, which varied little over the decades, involved an actor reading from children's novels or folk tales, usually while seated in an armchair. From time to time the scene being read would be illustrated by a specially commissioned still drawing, often by Quentin Blake. Usually a single book would occupy 5 daily 15-minute episodes, from Monday to Friday. A spin-off series was Jackanory Playhouse, which was a series of 30-minute dramatizations. These included a dramatization by Philip Glassborough of the comical A. Milne story The Princess Who Couldn't Laugh. Title: The show's title comes from an Old English nursery rhyme, "I'll tell you a story, about Jackanory. And now my story's begun. I'll tell you another, of Jack and his brother, and now my story is done." The rhyme was first recorded when published in the Top Book of All, for Little Masters and Misses around 1760. Revival: in November 2006 Jackanory briefly returned with comedian John Sessions as the revived program's first narrator reading the Lord of the Rings parody Middle Earth, written by Paul Stewart. The second narrator was Sir Ben Kingsley, reading The Magician of Samarkand by Alan Temperley. They were broadcast in 3 15-minute slots on CBBC and BBC One and later repeated in their entirety on BBC One on consecutive Sundays. The readings of Middle Earth were heavily accompanied by animation and featured actors speaking lines, leading to criticism that the spirit of the original programme, a single voice telling a tale with minimal distractions, had been lost. The Magician of Samarkand was a similar production, without additional actors speaking lines. Ben Kingsley read not just the story, but also the lines of all the characters. Both of these stories were produced and directed by Nick Willing. Both stories were released on DVD in their entirety with added bonus features. Jackanory Jr., a version of Jackanory for younger children called Jackanory Junior is shown on KBBS. Stories: a partial list of stories includes, The Quest for Olwyn, Little House in the Big Woods, read by Red Shively, Farmer Boy, read by Richard Manette, Capo Rushes, read by Lee Montague, Mr. and Mrs. Vinegar, read by Lee Montague, Master of All Masters, read by Lee Montague, Tom Thumb, read by Lee Montague, Dick Whittington, read by Lee Montague, The Squirrel, The Hare and the Little Grey Rabbit, written by Alison Utley, read by Wendy Hiller, How Little Grey Rabbit Got Back Her Tail, written by Alison Utley, read by Wendy Hiller, Wise Owl's Story, by Alison Utley, read by Wendy Hiller, Squirrel Goes Skating, written by Alison Utley, read by Wendy Hiller, Little Grey Rabbit's Christmas, written by Alison Utley, read by Wendy Hiller, The Snow Queen, written by Hans Christian Andersen, adapted by Anna Home, read by Enid Lorimer, The Wonderful Tar Baby, An Uncle Remus Story, read by George Brown, Brer Rabbit Makes a Fool of Brer Fox, An Uncle Remus Story, read by George Brown, Brer Rabbit Steals the Peas, An Uncle Remus Story, read by George Brown, Brer Rabbit Goes Calling on Mrs. Goose, An Uncle Remus Story, read by George Brown. Brer Rabbit Does Some Shopping, An Uncle Remus Story, read by George Brown. Mary Poppins Comes Back, written by P. L. Travers, read by Hattie Jacques. The Musicians of Bremen Town, written by the Brothers Grimm, read by Dylas Hamlet. The Frog Prince, written by the Brothers Grimm, read by Dylas Hamlet. The Goose Girl, written by the Brothers Grimm, read by Dylas Hamlet. Pippi Longstocking, written by Astrid Lindgren, adapted by David Coulter, read by Joyce Grenfell. Rumpelstiltskin, written by the Brothers Grimm, read by Dylas Hamlet. The 12 Dancing Princesses, written by the Brothers Grimm, read by Dylas Hamlet. The Wheat on the School, written by Mindert de Jong, read by Peter Settlen. Gulliver's Travels, written by Jonathan Swift, read by Alfred Marks. Gulliver in Space, written by J.G. Ballard, read by Alfred Marks. The Tale of Little Pig Robinson, written by Beatrix Potter, read by Margaret Rutherford. The Tale of Mrs. Tiggy Winkle, written by Beatrix Potter, read by Margaret Rutherford. The Tale of Johnnytown Mouse, written by Beatrix Potter, read by Margaret Rutherford. The Tale of Mr. Todd, written by Beatrix Potter, read by Margaret Rutherford. Little Old Mrs. Pepperpot, written by Alf Prausen, read by Anne Way. Queen of the Crows, written by Alf Prausen, read by Anne Way. Mrs. Pepperpot Buys Macaroni, written by Alf Prausen, read by Anne Way. Mrs. Pepperpot Tries to Please Her Husband, written by Alf Prausen, read by Anne Way. The Ski Race, written by Alf Prausen, read by Anne Way. Mrs. Pepperpot to the Rescue, written by Alf Prausen, read by Patsy Rowlands. The Spider's Palace, written by Richard Hughes, read by Gordon Rowlings. The Dark Child, written by Richard Hughes, read by Gordon Rowlings. Living in Walls, written by Richard Hughes, read by Gordon Rowlings. The Magic Glass, written by Richard Hughes, read by Gordon Rowlings. The Invitation, written by Richard Hughes, read by Gordon Rowlings. Finn Family Moomin Troll, written by Tove Jansson, adapted by Philip Bate, read by My Zetterling A Bear Called Paddington, written by Michael Bond, read by Thora Hird. The Happy Lion, written by Louise Fatio, read by Bridget Searle. The Happy Lion Roars, written by Louise Fatio, read by Bridget Searle. Three Happy Lions, written by Louise Fatio, read by Bridget Searle. The Happy Lion in Africa, written by Louise Fatio, read by Bridget Searle. Emile and the Detectives, written by Eric Carcar and CSTNER, translated by Eileen Hall, adapted by David Coulter, read by Lee Montague. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, written by Roald Dahl, read by Bernard Cribbins. James and the Giant Peach, written by Roald Dahl, read by Bernard Cribbins. Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator, written by Roald Dahl, read by Elaine Stritch. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, written by L. Frank Baum, read by Bernard Cribbins. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, written by Lewis Carroll, read by Bernard Cribbins. Through the Looking Glass, written by Lewis Carroll, read by Bernard Cribbins. The Bread Bin, written by Joan Aiken, read by Bernard Cribbins. The Hobbit, written by J.R.R. Tolkien, read by Bernard Cribbins. Arabelle's Treehouse, written by Joan Aiken, read by Bernard Cribbins. Uncle and His Detective, written by J.P. Martin, read by Spike Milligan. The 101 Dalmatians, written by Dodie Smith, read by Sarah Green. Matilda, written by Roald Dahl, read by Victoria Wood. Stories from the Isle of Man, The Buggane of St. Trinian's. List of readers. Cultural influence. Philip Glenister, in character as Gene Hunt, made an appearance on Jackanory as the guest reader in the Ashes to Ashes Series 2 finale, set in 1982, which Alex Drake imagines being transmitted to her television set. Jackanory said by someone in the sing-song tones of the theme tune indicates that she thinks that someone else is making up or stretching a story, that is lying. In 2013 the UK TV network Dave launched Jackanory as an adult version Jackanory. Each Jackanory episode features two 15-minute tales narrated by contemporary comedians and actors, containing a mix of live action and animation as per the original. References. External links. British Film Institute Screen Online Analysis and Listings, Jackanory at the Internet Movie Database, The Mausoleum Club Full Listings 1965 €69 and 1970 €74, Stop Messin' About, the Kenneth Williams website via archive.org, new chapter opening for Jackanory, BBC News Report, Jackanory at bbc.co.uk, the new Jackanory at BBC.